Hey Ed, this is
Hello.
Ed and Ed again, and we've been discussing offline about a particular couple of Lugers because that's what we collect. But can you give us some background, and then we'll talk briefly about Russian Lugers in general and why they are considered kind of controversial in an odd sense.
Yes. Let me, I'm going to grab a book. I should have thought of this
So
beforehand.
I'll briefly talk about Russian Lugers. And Russian
Hmm.
Lugers, what they are is they would be ones that were either contracted, and that's where some controversy is, or they were simply sold in the Russia, and they usually have a marking on them or two, and people will say they're fake or they'll say they're real. So it's just kind of a one of those mild controversies in Luger collecting, which is what we collect. I've been collecting Lugers since, well, after I retired from the Army in 2000, I really started to become a true collector. And before that, I had two Lugers, but they were what people would call a shooter. One's a 8-inch artillery. I've still got it. And the other one was a fully matching S42. The top matched and the bottom matched, but not to each other. And you see those every now and then. Simply the parts were taken off at one point, so there's two guns out there that have the same serial numbers, but not to each other. But anyway, it's just fun stuff that as we age and go over and become a collector, you make mistakes and you learn. That's why Mark, um, my friend, and I were talking the other day about how you never know what you're going to come across. Anyway, Ed,
No.
that's why he was grabbing a book was because stuff like that has to be put into books so other people can learn.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'll give you a little background. I had I had gotten contact with a guy named Bill Schmitz, who's out in Nevada, New Mexico, rather, sorry. And he had sold me a couple of the test Lugers from 1906. And I wrote an article on that at Buffalo, put it on his website. And I was of the opinion that these were really the first issued Lugers. I am living now incommunicado because people are trying to kill me. But that is, in fact, I mean, I think it's a supportable position. And Sturgis has a lot of evidence to support that contention. Anyway, Bill sent me a picture, which I'm going to hold up, and this is Luga Variations by Jones, and this is the Russian commercial of 1923. It says Russian commercial of
Yep.
1923.
And
And
Jones is one of the first books out there. His son, I know, has been a very nice guy, but that was written in what, 1962?
59.
59. Okay.
So it was written even before, but 59 is when it was published. And he coined the term Russian commercial. I listen, my background is research. And when I'm sort of tenacious. When I get onto something like this, I start looking. And I found a total of nine, nine printed references to this particular type of gun. And there ain't no more. And this is the first one. And the
Are
issue is
those nine different references of different guns? Or do like sometimes something gets mentioned once and then you keep seeing it again?
very much like that. I used to investigate some paranormal events when James Randi was a magician, and he had a challenge. And he said, "I'll pay you $1 million if you can prove something paranormal. So I would look at, evaluate things. And the interesting thing that I found was that somebody would publish something in some obscure journal somewhere, and that got reprinted and reprinted and all of a sudden it took on a life of its own. And it was a real, now we have a real thing. And look, there's a reference for it. And largely, the references I found referred to this particular firearm, serial number 5, that Jones had popularized. It had belonged to Belford, the fellow who had written the book on Mauser's self-loading pistols.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, so it belonged to a guy that sort of knew what he was talking about, In any event, I got the gun. I mean, I bought it, came to me, and I
Oh, whoa,
investigated.
whoa, back up.
Yes.
How'd you get it? Tell me about that because this is the fun
Well,
part.
Bill Schmitz said, I've got this gun. I bought it a while back because it was so peculiar,
Yeah.
and I'll sell it to you. And I said, great, do it. So he sold me this thing. It was very reasonable. And he didn't have any background, didn't have any, there was no provenance, nothing like that. He found, I think it was on Gun Broker, and he had bought it like
Now,
10 years
now is
ago.
this a different gun than the one in the book or one
Yes,
like it?
yes, it is the thing that characterized the reason that Jones called it Russian is that it has, instead of, the many Lugers have the nitro proof mark, a crown over an N on the
Yeah,
side of the
yeah.
receiver, could be elsewhere. Um, this had sort of a crown. Um,
Now, my wife and I were talking about this last night. So it's
this
not a normal nitro crown then.
No, it's not. This is the crown. I've photographed it from a number of
Yeah, we can
uh,
see it clear. That's good. Good.
yeah, I will. Well, we will provide backup and links to more information. So the crown is different. There's no cross on it. I've examined it very, very closely. It's not a misstrike. It's not, that there's no cross. It looks very much like a crown that they utilize in Bulgaria on some, on stamps and so on and so forth. And the N is reversed. So they call it a Cyrillic N. It's the I.
Is there really a Cyrillic N that
Yes.
looks like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
that's the
the,
question
it's,
my wife was asking me last night.
well, you tell her, it's an I in the Cyrillic alphabet.
An
And,
I. Oh, I'll be darned. Uh-huh.
yeah. And, I mean, I started doing my research. I found another gentleman who had one of these Lugers, who 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, sold it to me. So
That's right. You told me that. Yeah.
I own two of them. The third one, for which there is evidence of his existence, is the one in Jones.
Are
So
there
there
serial
are three.
numbers close or totally
There are
different?
three. No, well, mine is 9. The one that Jones has is 5, and the one I bought is 999. There's an overstrike in the middle. It could be 99, but
Yeah.
I choose to call it 999 because I can read 3D. If I were reporting, when I entered it into my CNR book, it became 999. So
Sure.
that's
Now,
this.
I remember you and I were talking about this, and um, you don't need to say the price, but you paid very reasonable price, so it's not
Oh
like you were
yeah.
buying a fake or something that somebody was selling you.
Right. I mean, it was less than 2 grand, I think, 15, 1800, something like that. What you would a little bit higher than what you would expect to pay nowadays for a shooter. I mean, a shooter, $1,200, right? I mean, around that.
Yeah.
Um,
What caliber are they?
they're all 30 caliber Luger.
Oh, they're 30 caliber. I missed that before. Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
and they, I mean, it is peculiar in that regard. But that was made presumably 1923 or 2023. It's I mean, the 20 or 23 is going to be about the same because the serial numbers it's only a couple of digits with no following letter. Um, the My research showed up 9 references, and as I said, most of them, and I've got anybody that wants to follow this. I have a document called references. So everything that is out there is in this document. I even scanned the actual entry. They're not long. It's not like 20 pages in Sturgis. It's like a little paragraph or less
Yeah,
line.
yeah.
And
Now, one thing to keep in mind, just for the people listening, is that the reason they call them 1923s is right after World War One. They are broke. I mean, I'm talking about what didn't they have like $1 million, million mark bill or something because
yeah, the
stuff was
inflation,
so expensive. So they were selling
hyperinflation.
anything they could to anybody during that time frame.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
I'm just throwing, and 30 caliber was much more popular in the world than 9 millimeter was during that time frame.
And they were, supposedly restricted by the Versailles Treaty. They couldn't make weapons in 9 millimeter. Um, yeah, I mean, that was one of the thoughts that went through my mind, is that they would turn out anything. And if a Russian emigre said, "Hey, we're going to overthrow those damn commies and sell us some guns," of course they would sell them. The I mean, that is a possibility. But as I just to get back to the data, there are 3 that I can identify, Jones, and then the 2 that I own now. Costanzo cites, he said, this is potentially it was a Russian sent to emigres when he made up a story, and he said there are a number of them for all 4-digit serials, 9 millimeter and 30 caliber. And he shows, I mean, that's what he cited. No photographs, no serial numbers, just this. So, I mean, my database, I say, I mean, he said, so I count that as 2. There's at least, according to him, there's at least one 30 caliber with a 4-digit serial, and there's at least one 9 millimeter with four characters serial. Now, are they really out there? I don't know. I mean, there's no way of telling. But I'm erring on it's a conservative assumption, I think. So now we've got a total of 5. I mean, 5.
No,
Um,
yeah. Now they are. I know you showed me a picture, but just repeat it. They are a 1908 model in
no,
30 caliber.
no,
Oh, well,
they're
see that, so I
19,
missed it.
they're
So
new
tell me
model.
about that.
Well, they don't have a grip safety. They've got relieved sear, and the relieved sear for the ones I've examined don't have an Erfurt stamp, so it was done at the time of manufacture. So they don't have a dish toggle. They've got it's just patched. Um,
And the reason
it's
you, not to confuse anybody, you said an Erfurt stamp was because they would have gone there to be reworked for the relief sear,
right
even
back
though
when
they
they
are a DWM product.
right, exactly. So I think this states that I mean if it didn't have that silly reversed end, you'd pick it up at a gun show and you'd say, "Oh, it's a 1920 commercial. Is it alphabet or is it a five, the 5-digit code,
Yeah.
a serial?" And I mean, there's nothing about it that distinguishes it other than that reverse N. Um, and I've had these guns apart, and I have examined them as minutely as possible. There's nothing inside that would date them. Nothing. I mean,
Huh.
or
But they both look
characterize.
alike, and the crown and the backwards N look exactly the same to you.
Exactly. In fact, if you when people examine the documents that I'll post, they'll see that there's a flaw in the N in the die, and it's repeated in all
On both
cases.
of them.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that a what did a faker make them? But if
Ah,
so, why?
but why? I mean, somebody said it's a fake, with an exclamation point, which is always the fallback, right? Um, And I said, but a fake of what? I mean, if I were going to fake a Luger, not that I would do it, but if I were going to fake one for either notoriety or money, right? Those are the two reasons one would fake. I'd make a death's head for God's sake. I'd say Adolf Hitler on it. I would do something that would call attention to it, from a collector's standpoint. And having an obscure Cyrillic character is in one place, or at most
Yeah.
two places, is silly. So I
Now
don't
DW,
think,
correct me if I'm wrong, but DWM made contracts. So new it could be a serial number from 1 to 10,000. I know that they did it for the Dutch,
sure,
and so a small contract. Now, do you think it's Bulgarian or do you think it's Russian or who knows? But
I'm afraid. I mean, I'm afraid to say anything because people are going to come after me. They're going to be coming through in the backyard. But I had thought Bulgarian. I think the solution is in this crown. That again, it's just it looks sort of Eastern to me. But and this happened the other day. Chris Hess, the guy that has the World of Luger website,
yeah,
also
I
has
know
been
Chris,
digitizing the
obviously.
Shattuck lists.
Yeah,
And I don't know a whole lot about Shattuck, but I know he was a very well-known dealer in Lugers. And I think the guy had a lot of expertise in Lugers. What he did, is not really germane here. And so Chris contacts me and he says, "I think I found something." And Shattuck he calls it the rarest of rare Russian Lugers, the 1923. And he's citing our friend Jones. So
yeah,
he's using,
yeah,
I mean, when you read the entries in his sales lists, and again, this is all I've made this available. Um, you, he's I mean, it's not Jones' words precisely, but it's close enough. I mean, for
sure.
one of the tells with this gun is, and I've never seen this on another Luger. Maybe you have. You can educate me. They have the word Germany export mark on the chamber in line with the barrel. I've
Yeah,
got a
I've
lot.
only
I mean,
seen
I've
it.
looked at a lot.
If you see Germany, you're expecting it to come to America because that was a
Yes,
requirement that we had.
but have you ever seen it stamped on the chamber in
No,
line with the barrel? No.
not that I remember. And we're not talking on the left or the right of the receiver, but on the
No.
very top. Now,
Yes.
is this marking in Costanzo? Because although there's Costanzo has some issues, it's got lots of research, and it's every
Yeah.
collector should have
No, he doesn't
Costanzo.
mention it. He doesn't
Oh,
mention
he
it.
doesn't. That's
But
surprising.
Shattuck does for one or two. Shattuck has three. We found three. I've gone through the list too. We found three of these 1923 Russian Lugers. And one or two of them, he specifically says it's stamped Germany on the chamber in line with the barrel.
Now,
Um,
Shattuck, Ralph he was a very nice guy. Uh, Probably did some shady stuff, but um, besides that, I shouldn't have said that. Is he usually puts serial numbers on his list, and Ralph's been dead for about 10 or 12, 15 years now. But did he put the serial number in on the list?
yes, God
Oh,
bless him.
okay.
He did. And that gives us three more guns. The serials is 788 number one, which his I had not really read his list before. I've got to tell you, I was going the wording on those. I mean, that was primo. I mean, he was a
Yeah,
salesman. But anyway,
I collected them because I was picking up Simpson serial numbers at one time and information, and I had hundreds and hundreds of his lists. I still do, obviously, and I've sent them to a couple of collectors. Chris was one, and because it's good to share that.
yes.
It's You're looking at information from the 60s, 70s, 80s that's a long time ago now, and it's interesting to read before stuff was being faked, or more so.
But also when you're a collector, I mean, when I back in the day, a long time ago, I collected, like late medieval arms and armor and so on. And the big deal was provenance. Where did this thing come from?
Yeah,
Where can I trace it? Owner to owner to owner. And firearms, you don't bump into that as much, but it is I did with the VL&D Mausers. That was an
yes,
area where I was looking at the, who owned what. But here with the Shattuck lists, I mean, when as Chris proceeds to get these things digitized, people are going to be able to see, put in the number, was it sold by Shattuck and when? But
yes,
and the other serial number was a 3/47. I don't know what that is. Chris made the assumption the guy did a backslash rather than a one. He was just typing really quick. I don't know. I mean, a guy that types hundreds of lists seems he wouldn't make a mistake like that. I mean, it could be a three, and I don't know. I have no idea. And maybe there was an overstrike like the other one I have. Well,
but it's where the serial number would be rather than because that's almost sounds like a Weimar unit marking with a backslash.
except it was on the front of the frame. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah. Interesting.
so we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping that conversations like this and having the paper on it, Buffalo's site, and providing the references, there's 19 pages now of references, um, that people globally will look. And remember, I had bought a humpback Mauser, and I had made the point that it was at the Lakeland show, actually in Florida. And I walked past the table, and it was, it looked like, a 1914 Mauser. If you're not attuned to it, it's 50 thousandths of an inch difference in the profile. That's all it is between a humpback and a prosaic 1914. I caught it. Good for me. Who catches a reverse N on a Luger? On
Right.
an, and not, I mean, the 30 calibers are not really the height of collectability. The commercials are not the height of collectability, I think. And people, I think, often just walk by. They don't, they see 1923, 1920 Luger. They walk by, they don't check it.
Sure.
So it's a very subtle touch. Now, the thing that Shattuck said that I always joke when I write these articles. I say, a rabbit hole opened underneath me. I mean, this is like yet another rabbit hole. Shattuck says, Well, these were issued to German officers that were part of the German general staff in the 1920s. What? So I started doing a little bit of research, and lo and behold, yeah, I mean, there were German officers that were, I mean, both sides. I mean, initially they were white Russians. They wanted to overthrow the communists. The Germans were quietly supporting them, and then before World War II, there was a more formal relationship because the Germans were using the Russians evidently to develop their military. They were doing training in Russia.
Right. Yeah.
So, it could be, I mean, there could have been a number of senior officers over there saying, we're going to get rid of these commies. And they said, fine, here's a Luger. And they stamped it with an N that might, the N might also mean it might have an inspection um, um, interpretation. And they could very well have done that. And there were, a limited number of them and so on. I think there are a limited number of them. I don't know how, I don't think this is something that, when people watch this, suddenly we're going to have 10,000 of them. I don't think there were ever that many of them. But I mean, there's certainly more than now. I've got what, three, five, eight in my database. Eight. It's hardly a
Yeah.
database to memory.
Well, contracting numbers start at whatever number that the people request or what DWM wanted to do.
Yeah.
Um, they're an interesting collecting thing. Most people I've met, very few people collect commercial, let alone collect contract guns. I mean, we'll pick one up here
Yeah.
or there, but there's not a specific book on contract pistols, not really.
No, no. And this, I mean, it might not, I mean, if Shattuck's hypothesis is correct, then it's not even, it might not even be a contract. It may be that the, German officer called up DWM and said, hey, take a couple off the assembly lines, stamp an N on them, or, we'll pay it.
And a stamp, a, a marking for proof for acceptance. They went through them a lot, so there had to have been somebody on staff, I would think, who would make them. Because I believe it was estimated, let's say Eagle 655 during the World War II time frame. I want to say that it could only last 900 or 2000 stamps because you're hitting hard metal. And I could be wrong on that number, but still the point is that they had people that made those for them because they went through them. They'd crack or break.
Yeah, yeah. And, I mean, I mean, it would be simple enough, I think, for a government entity to get a couple of one-offs, to distribute to a group of people. And as you pointed out, I mean, the inflation in Germany at the time was something that, we thank goodness we have never experienced anything like that.
Yeah,
But where a mark was on a par with a dollar at the beginning, stamps were 10 million marks. I mean, stamp collectors very familiar with this. Um, so DWM and I mean everybody else, but DWM, if they had an opportunity to get hard currency, or perhaps, or even millions of marks, I mean, who knows? They would take it. They would certainly take it. But I mean, I think the bottom line here is that I've been able to closely examine two of these guns. Two. I have photographs, a top and a side, one side and the top in Jones. That's it. That's it.
yeah. Well,
Shattuck does not.
Ed, you said you took them apart. Now,
Oh yeah,
most Lugers will have makers marks, workers marks inside and underneath where the main
yeah.
barrel is. Did you see stuff like that?
A couple, I mean, I should all, I'm thinking now I should take them apart and photograph them, go make a list. Maybe three marks on a gun. I
Oh,
mean, and I said in the paper that the number five had the serial number inside on the toggle train, and I'm wondering if that five is really just an inspection mark or a code for an inspector or something like that. I mean, it may not be because the other one has in the exact same spot has an H,
uh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So I think I haven't submitted this article yet to Buffalo, but I had written one and rewrote it completely because of the Shattuck stuff. But I think I make a point. I wouldn't take that information to the bank. It's not
Well,
clear to
send
me.
me the links and I'll put it down into the comments down below so that people can look it up on their own. I don't
Sure.
know if I can do a PDF for your thing, but if you give me the link to Buffalo,
Yep.
he has a website of
Yes.
obscure guns and more common guns, but it's a really excellent site that he
It's an
keeps up.
excellent site. Excellent reference. You
Again,
can,
one
yeah.
his name is Ed Buffalo, so it's just we're the Eds all along.
No, yeah, clearly we better not die because the whole collecting fraternity will go away. Um, yeah, no, I am really, I'm very happy that Ed has offered me the opportunity to put some of my writings because, you know, it's wonderful, and I'm not denigrating any organization that prints, does a hard copy. But the problem is, if if it isn't indexed, if it isn't if it isn't electronic, nowadays it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
And now with Ed stuff, I mean they're searchable, and you can have essentially any number of photographs, which is remarkable.
yeah,
And um, the other part of it is that when you put something up on his site, I mean, I did this once actually. A new piece of information came in like a month later. I did, I said, Ed, edit page five, blah, 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 and he put the edit in. I mean, it's a living document,
yeah.
which is
That's really
really,
nice.
it really is.
Yeah.
And particularly with something like this, I mean, who in the world has ever researched these stupid things?
Well, that's how we find out information is that somebody, you, takes the time to research them.
Yeah,
On Jan's forum, people usually it's younger people, meaning they're under 40, and they'll come along and they'll say somebody should keep a track of this. Somebody should, and the problem is somebody has to be you or me, and that most of the time people aren't willing to do that.
yep,
So.
yep. But this is an interesting little, a very obscure niche. And, where a person that does research can actually make a contribution. I mean, it's not clear to me with mainstream Lugers. I mean, I'm going to measure the size of the eagle again. I'm not diminishing that, but I am. I mean, it's been done. Most of the stuff that is useful, interesting about the more common Lugers is people have been looking at them for 100 years. This is something where a person with access to the internet. I mean, Chris made
Sure.
major contribution by saying, "Hey, you got to look at the Shattuck list." I mean, and maybe there's more in those lists. He does say he's got 60 of them.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I bought them, picked them up from friends. I mean, I had several different lists from different people, Hoffman and some of the others, and Simpson. But it was I gathered together specifically for Simpson Lugers because there wasn't a lot known about them as much as I would like, and I've shared them with others who were looking for Mausers and things like that. It's
Yeah.
sharing information among each other is really nice. I think our time's just about up.
I think it is up, and it was really a pleasure once again to chat about this stuff. And, I will share everything I've got.
Yeah, sounds great. Hey, send